Thank you, David. So we talked about Torah as you're saying, the words of Torah, Hashem's gift, understanding Torah and developing Torah. And now we just learned the third level. The Torah is there to express the essential bond, the neshama of the Yid, putting the Yid in the pedestal, and Torah serving the Yid to reveal the level of the Yid. So that is a perfect segue to our next presenter. He's going to talk about accessing our neshama. Since we're talking about Torah as the gift from Hashem to reveal this essential bond of the neshama to Hashem, it really builds perfectly. So, by divine providence, this is the order. Emmanuel, please. Hey, the next one. Got your copy?
Yeah, I can give you one. So what I'm proposing today, this is what we're going to be doing today is, this is a text written by Rabbi Nathan Sternhartz, who was basically the one for the reason why we have any writings today. Rabbi Nathan of Breslov, he was the core editor of all of his works. He was the moon to his sun. Like without this, there would be nothing today. He did an amazing thing. He compiled a book called Likutei Halachot. He went through literally Shulchan Aruch, and he combined the insight from Rabbi Nachman's teachings on Chassidus, Zohar, and Halacha to make literally a practical guide to how do we go through this? How do we connect above and below in who it is that we are? And the text that I'm going to share and hopefully learn with everyone tonight is a text that I cannot tell you how this text has completely transformed my life. It has made it possible. We hear about Nikuda Tova, we hear about our own point, we hear about all this, but how do we in effect get in touch with our true selves so we can live the mission and the aligned life that we're born to live? How do we do this? How does this work? And does everyone have access to it? How does this all work? So the piece of Parsha that I brought you guys today is from Pinchas. It's the very beginning of Pinchas. I just want to give you guys 2 seconds of context because we're a little earlier in the year. So it's right after Balak. So what happens after Balak? During Balak, Bilam, instead of cursing the Jews, ends up blessing them. And he ends up giving his final word of counsel before leaving prophecy altogether. He basically tells Balak, you know what their God really hates? Their God really hates sexual immorality and idolatry. And if you can get them to get with the Midianite women, you've got this in the bag. What does he do? They set up a market, as we know. They get enticed, they all go shopping, they get brought deeper in, they get seduced, and then they get connected to Baal-Peor. So it's a disastrous result to an amazing parsha that is Balak. And in this parsha, we have Pinchas. Actually, it's the end of the other parsha, but this is where it really is, it's much more developed. So it says here, the beginning of this parsha, I'm just going to straight out read it. Pinchas ben Elazar ben Aaron HaKohen heshiv et chamati. It says here, Pinchas, the son of Elazar, son of Aaron the priest, has turned back my wrath from the Israelites. He says, and he turned my wrath away from the Israelites by displaying among them his passion for me, so that I did not wipe out the Israelite people in my passion. So this is from Sefaria, and they converted the word kin'ah, which is jealousy or zealous, into passion, because this word is so hard to work with, especially in this context. So we understand that there's some sort of an avenging, there's some sort of Pinchas, when Pinchas basically speared the prince, the Zimri, with the woman, because what happened? Sorry, back to the context. So Moses says to impale anyone who's connected to Baal-Peor at this point, and at that point Zimri shows up with the Midianite princess, and literally to his face goes with her. And there's a midrash that basically says, like, how are you different? You have Tzipporah. Here I am with someone who's not a non-Jew. Anyway, there's a rebellion basically brewing right here. Rebellion against the Tzaddik, Moshe Rabbeinu, a rebellion against Hashem and his laws. I mean, it's really not going well. And Pinchas, we know, impales them both brings them out, and he literally risked his own life in order to be able to somehow write things through this pretty intense act. Okay, I want to give one more little connection, and this totally connects to what David Aza was just saying. He's going to bring the idea here. The next sentence in Torah is "V'lachen emor hineni noten lo et briti shalom." Because of what Pinchas did, I give him my brit shalom. Now, this is a magic combination of two words. And this really, really connects to what we just connected with David Asley. So I want to talk 2 seconds about Brit, because we look at Brit in so many ways. Brit is the covenant, but Brit is more than the covenant. The way I really see Brit in my life is if Hashem is cellular service, lehavdil, Rogers, Videotron, Flight, whoever you're connected to. If Hashem is cellular service that's constantly broadcasting, okay, and your body is the hardware, the phone, the Brit is the SIM card. Without a SIM card, your phone plays music or could take pictures, but you're talking to no one. And without the SIM card, you have no connection to the service. So to me, the whole concept of Tikkun HaBrit, Shmirat HaBrit, Brit Shalom, again, fullness, is literally how are we managing this connection? And you can literally see the end of what we're going to go towards together. It's the idea of how you're going to live an aligned life. Well, the only way is when you have a connection with this concept of Brit. And the text that I've given you brings it in the most simple way I've ever seen in my life. It's the most practical and simple way to have a viable, living connection with Hashem all the time. So let's look at the text for 2 seconds. So he says here, Pinchas Zachalechuna, we know that Pinchas merited the idea of priesthood, al yedei shekina et maaseh Zimri, shepagam babrit. So he says, first of all, you have to look at what Zimri did as a blemish on the brit itself. Because by doing what he did with the princess that he did, he really disengaged from the connection to Hashem, forget his rules, right? The idolatry, the princess, everything. And he also disengaged with the tzaddik right there and then, like literally to his face. So he says, first of all, you have to look at his act like a brit problem, like a brit blemish, like a brit sin. And what did Pinchas do? He did a repair of the brit. How did he do this? He killed them. So he says, how did he do this? He merited the priesthood by literally, through this concept of holy love that dwells etzel hanekudah shel brit shalom. So we know that the Kohen Gadol, the Kohen is the concept of love, right? We know that the Kohen is the concept of Chesed, the Levite is the concept of Torah, right? We know that when they bless the people, when they bless the the final words is V'asem lecha shalom. So we understand that there's shalom is important here, right? Fullness, connection is important here. And we understand that with Pinchas's act, it's an act that ultimately restored the love between Hashem and the people. This is how he merited to attain this, because he somehow fixed something that was being disconnected as 24,000 people were perishing. So watch how he brings this down. Okay. So first of all, Bilam is a huge pervert. And Bilam we know from Torah that he was extremely caught up in immoral sexuality. So he says here that there's a klipa of Bilam, which we just connected to through the markets, that he's now somehow repairing. How is he doing this? And we know that it happens with the words. So now we realize that with words we can heal, with words we can blemish. With words we can counsel a whole nation to sin. With words we can fix a nation. God created with words. We know that words are important. He was completely caught up in a sexual immorality. It says that all his life in Sanhedrin, that he was completely caught up with this. Hold on one second. We know that Bilam is an equal and opposite to Moshe Rabbeinu. We know that it was given to the nation so that they couldn't say, hey, if we had a Moses, we would be pretty cool too. But the difference is that Bilam, with the access that he has, with the magical connection that he has, refused to elevate it. He refused to get it to serve people. Au contraire, he used it to literally destroy, curse with words, and destroy people with counsel. So listen to what he says here. This is the core of it. How could he have done it? He didn't want to fix this in his heart. Through holy speech. He says there's three kinds of speech that he, Bilam, could have done that would have been able to completely change the game. The first type of speech you want to engage in is a conversation with God. And a conversation with God is literally out loud. It's not in your head, it's not fantasy, it's literally using words out loud, isolating yourself, have a seat, find an isolated place, take a moment talking to Hashem. That's step one. Step two, you have to have conversations that bring an awareness of Hashem. Yirat Shamayim is awe, but Yirat Shamayim is also awareness. So when we have conversations with friends, with clients, with spouses, with kids, how are we revealing Hashem in those conversations? How are we not? Is it lashon hara? Is it criticism? Is it, and you're going to see he's going to bring a condition to how to make this happen. And the third conversation, ledaber im tzaddik. You have to speak to your tzaddik. You have to speak to your tzaddik. So if you have these three conversations, a conversation with Hashem, a personal conversation with Hashem, a personal conversation where you're elevating your friend's conversation, and the third conversation, a conversation with the tzaddik, you now have a working SIM card. You now are on your way to a working SIM card. Watch where he goes on. And then even the worst of the worst, can come out from the depth of his fall. He can bring him up where he's literally close to Hashem, from wherever he's fallen. And so he says here, Bilam, Bilam and his students did not desire this. And it's not bad enough that they're completely caught up in these perversions. They have no intent to elevate themselves or anyone else around them through speech. So they have the access and they do the exact opposite. They hide it. They hide the connection instead of revealing it. They hide the SIM card instead of showing everyone that they literally have access to it. Because everyone has it built in, but not everyone has it plugged in. So he says here, so he says those three speeches, they speak against the tzaddik, they speak against Hashem, and they literally draw their friends into more perverted speech. So what they're actually doing, he says here at the end of this, I just want to cut to the chase. He says here, they distance themselves and others from those 3 points. So they get more and more swallowed up in their tavot because they have no way out. They have no working compass. Not only is it so bad that they're going to, put themselves in this pit, but they now want to drown Israel in the same pit. So now he connects it all together. The same way that the tzaddikim of Israel, the kosher tzaddikim, the tzaddikim who really have these holy eyes on us, they reveal the nekudot we see in every single mosaic, that every single Rebbe story, you see someone who their godly nekudah is revealed to them. How? With the words of the tzaddik. Through their, so there's two conditions to those diburim. They have to be ksherim and they have to be tovim. If you have righteous speech and it's not good speech, loving speech, leave it out. Leave it out. It's not going to reveal someone's goodness if the way you're giving it to them is not with goodness, if it's not with a kind eye. Kids gravitate towards people who they know look at them beautifully with love and speak to them beautifully. If they don't have those two components, nothing from that adult's going to go in. And the last thing, you lose your connection to your nekuda through those three conversations. So what's amazing here is he's completely outlined from wherever we are, how deep, how fallen, from wherever it is that we are, a way to get the SIM card to work again, to get all of what David was talking about, to get that brit to work again, so that we can finally hear Hashem and we can bring, because what does Hashem want? He wants to be known in this world. Well, how are we doing our part to this? Well, the only way is to practice these three conversations. Baruch Hashem will inspire other people to practice these conversations by doing them. It's built in. And the more people reveal and realize who it is that they are, the more we're really making the world that Hashem has imagined for us in our time.
Thank you very much. We'll break for Mincha. And then after Mincha, before Ma'ariv, we will review the halachas of showering on Shabbos and Yom Tov. Understand?